I'm going to start with something from the book Michael Martone. I tell my students that I'm really bad with titles, and that I like titles of books that are just a name. You know, there's Jane Eyre, David Copperfield, Tom Sawyer, Michael Martone. So I thought that was great. Also, all of the pieces in there, there are 40-some pieces, they're all titled the same thing, or almost all titled the same thing, Contributor's Note. And I know that some of the class members are here, we talked about this, but do you all know, for those who I haven't talked to yet, what a contributor's note is? You know what those are, contributor's notes? No. They're the things in the back of a magazine that just have a little biographical note of the author. And so when I wrote these things, I sent them into magazines, and if the magazine editor wanted to print them, I would negotiate with the editor to put them actually in that section of the book, not in the front part of the section. So there are a lot of magazines that just have a table of contents. You know, I'm not in it except in the contributor's notes. Sometimes, though, an editor would take them and say, you know, no, I'm going to put them up in the front of the book, send a contributor's note, and then I'd say, okay, here's another one. And they'd say, no, send the real one. And I'd say, this is a real contributor's note. I'm just going to read one, and it's sort of an introduction of who I am too. Okay, contributor's note. See that hard-hitting title. Michael Martone was born in Fort. Come on in, grab a seat, get a cookie. Turn your cell phone on.
Turn it on. I expect the exact opposite. Turn it off.
No, turn it on.
Turn it on.
Yeah, I know. I know it blows your mind, doesn't it? We're so used to turning them off. Michael Martone was born in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and was educated in the public schools there. His first published work, a poem titled Recharging Time, and a character sketch, Tim the Experience, about his brother, appeared in The Forum, an annual literary magazine produced by the school system featuring contributions of its students. His mother, a high school freshman English teacher at the time, in fact wrote the poem and the character sketch, signing her son's name to the work and sending it in to the editor, another English teacher at a Southside junior high school who had been a sorority sister, Kappa Alpha Theta, in college. Indeed, most of his papers written for school were written by his mother. Examples included English research papers, history term papers, translations from the Latin, speeches, and lab reports. It began innocently enough with his mother writing his essays, the prose supposedly dictated by the son to his mother, whose penmanship was far and away more legible. This arrangement, her son sitting across the table, in a sense thinking out loud as she transcribed his thoughts with the same pen she used to grade her own students' papers, engendered in her a very active editorial intervention, which began to shape the spontaneous utterances emanating from her son. Soon this situation evolved to the point where her son sat silently while she wrote an original response to his initial prompt. Once she finished the first draft, she read it back to her son, who made a few minor suggestions as to form, style, and content. It was at this time and under these conditions that Martone began thinking of himself as a writer. His mother promoted that view in other ways, announcing to her friends at the local chapter of the Educational Honorary that her son had an aptitude for writing. The collaboration continued through college, where assignments were mailed home and returned, or in some extreme cases, the prose response was communicated via the telephone and copied out in a rather cramped and illegible longhand in the dormitory phone booth. Most of Martone's first book of stories and his occasional essays on the subject of writing, published under his own name, were written by his mother, who learned finally to type in 1979, the year she wrote his graduate thesis. Today, Martone receives microcassette recordings his mother has made of his future work, with the hard copy arriving by fax or courier with little or no interaction between the collaborators prior to the work's appearance. Martone is hard-pressed to tell you what exactly of his published work could truly be said to be his original contribution, if any, including this contributor's note and the contribution published somewhere else in this magazine.